Okay, just want to speak about one last Gadol, one last tzaddik while we're here, buried somewhere behind me, with Dovid Oppenheim. Fascinating figure in the history of Klal Yisrael. He lived 1664 to 1736. He was the chief rabbi of Prague. He was the chief rabbi of Prague. He was born originally in Worms, where his father, Rabbi, was one of the big rabbonim, one of the big leaders. And in 1713, he was invited to become the chief rabbi of Bohemia. He got shilas from around the world, literally from around the world. And Rabbi Yaakov Emden writes about him that he's a once in a generation. That's what Rabbi Yaakov Emden wrote about him. Now, of course, we have details of his mastery of the whole Torah, backwards and forwards. He knew everything. But the amount of tzedakah that he gave, the chesed that he did, it was unbelievable. He owned a huge library, where over a course of time he acquired tremendously rare and priceless books. At one time, boasted over 7,000 svarim, including 1,000 manuscripts. Remember, manuscripts in those days translated into svarim that Klal Yisrael would all be using. After his death, it went eventually to Oxford, which is where it is right now. Before he died, the leaders of Prague surrounded his deathbed, and they were very upset. They didn't know what to do, because his situation was getting worse and worse. And temporarily, he got consciousness. And they started to talk about the next subject, and they said, who should succeed him as the next spiritual leader? Who should be our Rav? Who should be our manhig? And he looked up, remember, very, very sick, about to leave this world, and he said the following words: what about Reb Meir? They looked at each other. What did he mean by what about Reb Meir? And then after that, he closed his eyes and he left this world. So after his death, they didn't know what to do. Maybe he meant a Reb Meir that should replace him. They were going backwards and forwards. 20 years passed. Prague did not have a replacement. And that was because he died. Who's Reb Meir? Maybe Reb Meir, maybe Reb Meir. Well, who's Reb Meir? So until eventually, the Dovid Yehuda got the candidate to become the chief rabbi, to become the Rav here in Prague. And they didn't know what to do, but very nice, the Dovid Yehuda, his name is Rabbi Cheskel Landau, like what Shaykhist and Rabbi Meir, so like what are we going to do with the Rebbe's tzavah, his last parting words in the world, that he said maybe Rabbi Meir. So the Dovid Yehuda explained exactly what he meant. And then listen to this is to understand the godless of the Dovid Yehuda. He said that what he meant was, the halacha is, we always follow the Rav. Whenever there's a shayla, there's a machlokes, we always go with the Rav. In other words, whatever the most likely situation will come out, that's what we assume will happen. There's one opinion in the Gemara, right? The Gemara talks about it in Chulin Davov Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says that Shitas Reb Meir holds is your choishish limiyuta. You're chayish, you're suspecting, even for a very far-fetched, slight possibility, even though it's probably not going to happen. Zug the Dovid Yehuda, when they brought up the Shaila with Rav Dovid Oppenheim of who's going to be the future leader of Klal Yisrael, that means that they were giving up on him, and they were saying that he's going to die. And he said, but maybe Reb Meir. Shitas Reb Meir is we're choishish for the miyat of people that are about to die get a refuah shalema. So maybe I'm going to be one of those people, and maybe I'll have taka a refuah shalema. With that, the community understood that the Dovid Yehuda was their chosen leader, and he became the Rav over here afterwards. But upon him, the Rav Dovid Oppenheim was an unbelievable tzaddik. The Torah that he knew, the shurim that he gave, and the tzedakah that he did as well should be a schos for ourselves and for all of our neshamas and for all of Klal Yisrael Be'ez Hashem.